Hey, welcome to Optimize Every Day, where small changes make big differences over time. So, when we optimize ourselves, we are really looking at what we can do to make sure that we're making changes in ourselves, our businesses, and those relationships that we have that impact us negatively. And we try to make changes that will improve how we respond and how we act. Now, when we're looking at those different areas, we need to learn how to respond to people in an effective manner. By doing so, we put ourselves in a position of knowing what we're going to say or how we're going to react in certain situations. When we're looking at those kind of things and we're not quite sure how to deal with those things, then it makes it really hard to respond. So when you're taking a proactive look at your environment and your behaviors and what things impact how you see the world and the behaviors that you have, then that gives you the ability to try and figure out new ways to handle things in such that you can then come up with a way to respond to others. It's like preparing for a debate. You know, when you prepare, you figure out what you believe the opposition is going to bring at you, and then you develop a response and you practice that response. So when it comes up, you have a prepared method to deal with that attack. And then you can then be prepared, and you also have a behavior that you have practiced to be able to respond effectively. If you come to a situation and you have a attack that comes at you that you're unprepared for, then you're going to be caught off hand and off guard, and then you won't be able to respond appropriately. You know, it's like being a lawyer. A lawyer going into court should never ask any question that they don't know the answer to. They should already be prepared with knowing what that person that they're talking to in the courtroom is going to say. By doing that, they then are able to then direct or choreograph what's going on. They're prepared. They have the tools ready at hand to be able to move through their ideal plan. And if you're on the opposition, you should already know what one side is going to do based on the information that they have and the pre-loaded discussions or content that they have available to them so that they can counteract that. And both sides are constantly working on knowing what the other side is going to say and what the response to all the answers are. At that point, the entire rest of it lies with the jury, who has no idea what that argument is going to be, and what responses are going to be by those being questioned. So that in that way, they are blind to anything that happened before, because they're coming in fresh and having no knowledge of what happened that brought them to be jurors in that situation. So what being prepared is more than just being a good Boy Scout. Being prepared is a life skill. It's a life skill that helps you move beyond steps A, B, and C, and D, E, and F, etc. It helps you to be prepared and knows how to respond under a given set of circumstances. Now, are you going to be prepared for everything? No. But that preparation should help you to be able to handle most other situations that you may be unprepared for. So, that said, there is a lot that can be done in preparing. And how do you prepare? Well, like we have talked before, you can use counselors and mentors and other people who you know to help you to identify problem areas in your life, things that they see as a troubling behavior. You know, if you're an alcoholic, you know, they may or may not be willing to tell you you're an alcoholic, but at least somebody will. And you can ask them why they believe that. And if they tell you you're an alcoholic, they'll tell you. And generally, you know, you're going to get a truthful response. And then at that point, then you need to be prepared to do what you have to do to get off that wagon. Or I should say, maybe get on the wagon, the dry wagon. Either way, you know, you're needing to change a set of behaviors. Now, I know a situation in which somebody had been sobered for many, many years, and somebody thought it was okay for him to have one little drink, and they didn't recognize how bad the alcoholism addiction was for that individual, because they'd never seen that person drink before. And once that person had one little sip, that's all they wanted. And once they sobered up, you know, they were wanting to go back to it again and again. And they had to make a purposeful decision that they wanted to get off of that. It was a hard road after being sober for 20 years. And that person told me, it took them a year to get back to maintaining a sober state. All because somebody felt like they could deceive that person. But that person was unprepared for that deception. And they were aware that they were unprepared for that deception. And so they didn't know how to handle it, and their addiction was so intense that just one small drink caused them to just want more and more alcohol. And it took a concerted effort on their part to go and decide they weren't going to do it. And it was hard. It was very, very difficult. Lots of addictions are similar to that, where you can be free of doing that behavior for a good period of time, and all it takes is one simple little break, and it's like a dam breaking, and you have to build that dam back up so that it holds back all of that negative behavior. It's a lot of work. So if he hadn't been prepared, and in the time after that, he came up with a plan to help him to avoid that kind of situation moving forward in the future. And it was a difficult thing to do, and they had to make some very, very difficult choices. You know, what people should they interact with at parties? And in this case, this individual decided that, you know, unless he got the drink himself, he would not take a drink from anyone when he went to a Christmas party, because that's what he had to do to maintain his soberness. It is so much that you have to prepare for when you have certain behavioral aptitudes that may not be positive in your life, and you have to prepare. And so by being prepared, a lot of benefits can come. In the case of this individual, you know, it was a hard road to get to be sober and then remain sober for 20 years. It was a simple thing to fall and crash. And then it was difficult again, once again, to get up and dust off and move back to that state again. And then a reflection on how to ensure that it didn't happen again. And sometimes it destroys beliefs and behaviors that you can trust certain people. And it may not be fair that you don't trust somebody because of one event, but on the other hand, falling and having a negative behavior take over isn't fair to you personally. And so you have to do what you need to do to be the positive, optimized person that you can be. Because when you're an alcoholic and you're, you know, doing the watermelon crawl, you're not in control. You're not living to your best. And for some people, sorry to say, they just can't have alcohol. For some people, they can't engage in certain things. Other people, you know, it's fine to have a drink every once in a while. It's not going to harm. But they have to maintain a situation where they're not drinking so much that they become an alcoholic. And there are a lot of people out there who are alcoholics and they think that they have it under control because they're only drinking, you know, 3 or 4 shots a night. I tend to think that, in my personal belief, that that's a bit of an overkill on consumption of alcohol, but you know, that is their choice, their belief, and as long as it's not hindering them from performing, you know, I guess it's okay, but it's not optimizing. when you're not in control of your faculties, you cannot be an optimized self. So learning and knowing yourself, being the best self you can be, is extremely important to you personally as well as to your community and how you can benefit your community. Anyway, thank you for stopping by. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.